Hi, my name is Sheila Karuna. Welcome to New Light Streaming Love and to Sassy Seer Sheila, as this will be seen on both channels. This is Gaslighting, the Art of Control and the War on Truth by Jason Gray. There exists a war unseen by most, waged not with weapons, but with perception. It is a battle fought in the mind, where reality itself becomes the battlefield. And the objective is not conquest of land, but conquest of truth. Those who wield the weapons of deception do not need force to maintain power. They need only to shape perception, erode certainty, and replace reality with illusion. At the heart of this war lies gaslighting, the method by which truth seekers are dismantled, dissidents are silenced, and the collective mind is kept in submission without ever realizing the chains that bind it. It is not merely a psychological trick, but the foundation of control itself, the means by which the invisible matrix is upheld. It is the slow, methodical distortion of truth until the very act of questioning becomes an act of insanity. To control the world, one must first control the narrative. To control perception, to control the narrative, one must control perception. To control perception, one must master the art of gaslighting. The anatomy of gaslighting, how reality is rewritten. Gaslighting is not a single act. It is a process, a gradual and deliberate conditioning of the mind. It begins with subtle doubt, escalates into open contradiction, and ultimately aims for the complete disintegration of one's ability to trust their own senses. Ooh, is this what's behind some of these things that are being called the Mandela effect? Interesting that. It is the calculated destruction of certainty, leaving the victim adrift in a sea of uncertainty where only the gaslighter can provide truth. Truth is in quotations. Stage 1, seeding doubt. The first strike is rarely an outright lie. It is a suggestion. Are you sure that is what happened? You might be overreacting. Maybe you misunderstood. At this stage, gaslighting does not seek to break reality, only to plant the seed of doubt, to make you second guess your own mind. It is a subtle shift, a crack in the foundation, setting the stage for the next assault. And again, I'm being shown an entire conversation that I had with a friend in regards to the Berenstein Bears. When that whole thing was brought to my attention in, I want to say, 2013, 2014 is when I was first, maybe even 2015, but I was first introduced to this concept of the Mandela effect. And having been taught how to read using those books and knowing how I was taught how to pronounce that name, No. Yeah, that whole conversation went exactly like that. Are you sure you're not just misremembering that? No, I am certainly not. So back to the writing here. It is a subtle shift, a crack in the foundation, setting the stage for the next assault. Stage 2, open contradiction. As doubt takes root, the next phase escalates. Reality itself is rewritten. Quote, that never happened. Quote, you are imagining things. Quote, you are remembering it wrong. Even when presented with undeniable evidence, the response is not engagement, but dismissal. The gaslighter's goal is not to win through logic, but through persistence, repetition, and confidence. Truth does not need to be disproven, only denied with enough authority to create uncertainty. Stage 3, isolation and self-doubt. By now, the target has lost confidence in their own mind. The world no longer feels solid. They begin seeking reassurance not from their own intuition, but from the very source that is gaslighting them. Quote, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe they know better than I do. Maybe I am wrong. End quote. At this stage, the mind has been captured. It no longer questions the external manipulator. It turns inward, doubting itself. A person in this state no longer needs to be controlled. They have been conditioned to control themselves. Stage 4, submission and dependency. When gaslighting is complete, reality is no longer determined by perception, but by authority. The target now accepts the gaslighter's narrative as their own. What was once clear is now uncertain, and what was once uncertain is now dictated by those in control. This is the ultimate goal of gaslighting, not merely to deceive, but to make deception unnecessary. Once reality is no longer trusted, control is absolute. The war against truth tellers. The greatest threat to the system of illusion is not violence, rebellion, or even knowledge. It is the individual who refuses to be gaslit, the one who sees through the smoke and mirrors, who questions the narrative, who holds on to their own perception despite overwhelming pressure to surrender to it. Such individuals must be neutralized, not with force, but with the tools of gaslighting itself. The spiritual revolutionary. Those who seek higher consciousness, who understand that reality extends beyond the material illusion, must be discredited. They are labeled delusional, naive, lost in fantasy. Their wisdom is dismissed as pseudoscience, mysticism, irrational belief. Their experiences of transcendence are framed as mental illness, hallucination, wishful thinking. I don't know if you recall, but just a few years ago, there was an article that came out that said specifically that those who are concentrated on eating all organic food, good, clean, organic food, this might be a mental health issue. I'm sorry. Say what now? And boy, oh boy, keep in tune with this channel because very soon my housemate will be coming back to Conscious Conversation Central and we will be hearing her story. And it's all about this kind of thing right here. It includes all of that. Yeah, a lot. A society trapped in illusion cannot afford to acknowledge those who see beyond it. The spiritual seeker is not just a threat to deception, they are proof that something more exists. The political dissenter, those who challenge authority, who see corruption in the system, who question the legitimacy of rulers and institutions, must be silenced. They are branded conspiracy theorists, radicals, extremists. Their ideas are framed as dangerous, unstable threats to democracy. The more evidence they provide, the more aggressively they are attacked. Truth is not simply ignored, it is criminalized. The act of questioning becomes an act of rebellion, and the act of rebellion is defined as madness. The scientific heretic. Science, once a pursuit of truth, is now a weapon of control. Those who challenge the accepted paradigms, who seek knowledge beyond what is sanctioned, are eradicated. They are dismissed as frauds, pseudoscientists, dangerous thinkers. Their research is censored, their reputations destroyed. New discoveries are only accepted if they fit within the framework of control. Questioning, oh yeah, real science is about questioning. Questioning is a threat. And those of you that have been following me and this channel for a while will remember that I used to have a queue on the wall behind me. And a lot of people thought that I was a QAnon person. And quite frankly, regardless of what anybody thinks or thought about that whole thing, I feel it was source guided because it caused an awful lot of people to begin to ask questions. And a lot of folks, that's why they termed it the Great Awakening, a lot of people who never ever questioned anything prior began to question everything, which is, in my opinion, the only way that everything that's happening on the planet now is going to be revealed, is to continue to question everything. Regardless of what anyone thought that phenomenon actually was, whether it was a psyop or not, it was the most brilliant psyop in history because it got people to ask questions. And that is something that absolutely at its core is the most important thing people can do, in my view, is think about things and ask questions. Don't just accept anything at face value. Nothing. That's my take on it, for certain. That's why questioning is a threat. To ensure compliance, the scientific method itself is rewritten, not as a tool for discovery, but as a tool for reinforcement. Gaslighting as the foundation of the matrix. Gaslighting is not just a tactic, it is the structure of control itself. The invisible prison of humanity is not built from steel and concrete, but from manipulated perception. The media complex ensures that truth is defined by repetition. And this is how it has been from time immemorial. This is what education is: repetition, memorization, and regurgitation. That's it. And I view all education at this point in those terms, and I trust none of it unless one is doing their own experimentation, forming your own hypothesis, testing that hypothesis, questioning that hypothesis, gathering your own experiences. I trust absolutely nothing I see. That's really, at this moment of now, the only way I can see to move forward is to trust my own discernment and intuition, because not anything you see, nothing at all that appears may be real. What with cheap fakes, deep fakes, misinformation, disinformation, AI, all of these different things that are out there, none of us have the full 100% truth of what may or may not be taking place in the wider world past our own noses and our own yard, in my view. It's just the way I see it. So I'm going to repeat that. The media complex ensures that truth is defined by repetition. The educational system conditions obedience, not thinking. The cultural narrative shifts morality based on power, not principles. The matrix is not upheld by force, it is upheld by perception. Gaslighting is the means by which perception is dictated. Breaking free, reclaiming the mind. To escape gaslighting, one must reclaim the sovereignty of their own mind. The prison exists only as long as one consents to it. Trust your own perception. That's why I say form a hypothesis. Question your own self. Test what you've formed in your hypothesis. Gather your own experiences and move about accordingly from there. That's the only way I can see that we can move forward. Reality is not, trust your own perception. Reality is not dictated, it is perceived. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Do not accept narratives that contradict your own experience. And trust me when I say this, we have all been programmed to go with authority because, you know, they have the education. They know better than you do. No, they do not. Not in my experience. Anyone who has had any kind of, especially medical misdiagnosis like I have had, can tell you, oh no, they do not know better than you do. And things like that actually become the reason why a lot of different people begin to awaken to things like that. So putting your authority, allowing someone else to, what they say goes, just because we think they know better than we do, that's a recipe for disaster, in my view. So if something feels wrong, it probably is. Do not accept narratives that contradict your own experience. If you are told you are wrong, demand proof. If proof is not provided, hold your ground. Refuse to engage in the game. Gaslighting only works when you play along. When someone attempts to twist reality, do not argue, stand firm. Never explain yourself to those who manipulate. Never negotiate with deception. Speak truth and let it stand. Speak the truth no matter the cost. Truth is the antidote to illusion. The more it is spoken, the weaker the deception becomes. Speak even if you are ridiculed. Speak even if you are outnumbered. Speak even if they call you mad. A single voice of truth is more powerful than an army of lies. The final battle: reality versus illusion. Gaslighting is not just manipulation, it is war. It is the battle between perception and control, between truth and illusion, between those who seek to see and those who seek to blind. To be gaslit is to be enslaved. To break free is to reclaim your mind, to see reality as it truly is. To refuse to surrender to deception is the ultimate act of rebellion. Jason Gray. And I will say this: I really feel with all of me that is the reason that Sassy Seer Sheila is my third YouTube channel. Now, I said that this would appear on both channels. I don't think it will. I think it's only going to appear on Sassy Seer Sheila, and I'll tell you why. I don't want to risk New Light Streaming Love. That is a collaborative channel between myself and Crystal Hemphill and Lisa Flamino Rush, and I don't want to endanger that. Sassy Seer Sheila is my third YouTube channel, and it has been taken down. My other two channels were taken down because I spoke truth. I wasn't told that specifically. I just apparently did something that they didn't like. And in the second case, I didn't get any kind of warning. I didn't even get a copyright infringement like I did on the first one. So I'm not sure exactly what I did wrong. All I know is they claim I went against their community standards. And speaking truth apparently is against community standards. So this one will only appear here on Sassy Seer Sheila. I highly recommend that you are subscribed in both places, because this will happen more and more, I suspect, as I don't wish to endanger that YouTube channel. I also want to say that for me personally, I have seen this as something that does happen more and more. And each, well, okay, so I'm just now being reminded There are folks who will say, well, they're not supposed to lie to us. No, you're right. They're not supposed to. But in the Patriot Act of 2012 that was signed into law in 2013, then President Obama signed it, and it included something called the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. You see, when World War II was a thing, when that was happening, the United States was creating propaganda and putting it out overseas. And the Smith-Mundt Act of that time stated that the United States could do that outside the United States, but it was not to be allowed. In other words, the government could not propagandize its own citizenry. And so it was not allowed within the borders of the United States. It wasn't until 2012, included in the Patriot Act, the national, what is that? I can't remember I never can remember the exact words, but it's called the Patriot Act that they started having every year after 9/11. And it was signed into law in 2013. The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act changed that. And in reading everything I could find about it, uh, everybody said, oh, because a lot of policymakers, foreign policymakers, were concerned that now the government could lie to its own citizenry. There were several articles written in different papers and magazines about it as well back then. And they said, oh, no, no, no. This is just so that Americans abroad and at home and people from other countries could get information about their homes. In other words, wanted to propagandize people from other countries that were living here. And I don't know, I could tell by what I read that it's all about perception and shaping perception. And so when you ask yourselves, when you think that the news cannot lie to you, I'm telling you, oh, yes, they can. That was a license to lie, in my opinion. Everybody gets to form their own opinion, and I have at it. But from everything that I've seen, I can see, and it becomes clearer with each passing year, just how far they're willing to go to shape the consciousness of the collective. Only you, by asking questions about things for yourself, can make the determination. Until we meet again, my friends, I hope that you will ask questions of yourself and of those around you, anyone who thinks that they're in power. And also, I want to say this because a lot of times words are used, and if you pay close attention to the connotation versus the denotation of words, you can see, sense, and feel the manipulation yourself. So until we meet again, be well, my friends.